This isn't merely a tale of humiliation. It's about the consequences of judging someone by their attire rather than the world they've quietly constructed. They expelled Keanu Reeves from the most exclusive party in the Maldives, unaware that he was the one financing the entire event. Stay until the end, for this narrative isn't about fame. It's about dignity, silence, and the moment the ocean decided it had witnessed enough. Comment the number 8 if you appreciated this story and wish to see more acts of kindness from Keanu Reeves. The sea was tranquil, but the air was electric. Keanu Reeves stepped barefoot onto the floating dock, the light salt breeze catching the hem of his simple linen shirt. His pants were still damp from the boat ride, and his hair clung softly to his forehead. In one hand he held a folded letter. No logo, no gold trim, just an envelope sun-warped and creased. Ahead of him, the glowing tunnel to Sub-6 beckoned, a glass passageway descending into the ocean where flickering fish danced behind curved acrylic walls. The world's most exclusive underwater restaurant was hosting a private gala for elite environmental donors, celebrity chefs, royalty, and borrowed tuxedos. Keanu approached the entrance. No red carpet, no cameras. Just Hilary Morel, the restaurant manager, standing beneath a carved coral archway, her eyes narrowing as he drew near. "Name?" she asked, devoid of a smile. "Keanu Reeves," he replied, offering the envelope. She took it with 2 fingers as if it were wet laundry, slid the card out, scanned it once. No barcode, no security chip. She looked up, unimpressed. "This isn't one of ours. It was sent directly by Mr. Talgett's office," Keanu replied calmly. "I was invited." Lyra didn't blink. "That may be, but your name isn't on tonight's guest list. This event is strictly by verified credentials." He didn't argue. He simply nodded once, quietly. "Then perhaps may I just sit at the bar? I won't disturb anyone." Lyra tilted her head, considering for half a second, then glanced down at his bare feet. "Sir, this is a luxury establishment. You're not dressed appropriately. I suggest you return to the main island." Behind her, laughter and clinking glasses rose from below, champagne being poured 6 meters under the sea, where the wealthy were already toasting causes they only cared about in public. Keanu took a breath, folded the letter again, and turned to walk away. Not angry, not broken, just still. She called after him, sharp and clean like broken ice. "Next time, sir, try checking the dress code before showing up uninvited." He paused briefly, then continued walking past the edge of the dock and into the shadow of the night. As the ocean swallowed his silhouette whole, the sea above them no longer mattered. Inside Sub-6, everything gleamed. Light bounced off the curved glass walls as if choreographed. Schools of reef fish hovered on the other side of the aquarium dome, their silver scales flickering like paparazzi flashes. Crystal chandeliers hung low over champagne flutes, and a DJ in a velvet tuxedo spun ambient tracks, barely louder than the gentle hum of wealth. Keanu Reeves sat quietly near the back of the room, not at a table, not on a plush velvet chair, just at the corner of a side bench tucked behind a marble column, a space typically used by staff during prep hours. The lighting there was dim, deliberately so. No one had told him to sit there, but everyone else had made it clear there was nowhere else for him. A waiter passed by with a tray of golden spoons resting on bone china. He slowed, looked at Keanu, then turned deliberately toward a table of influencers mid-selfie. Laughter erupted as someone poured champagne onto a dessert just to watch it fizz. Keanu observed quietly. He wasn't dressed for the spectacle. No watch, no cufflinks, no stylist picked fragrance to leave a trail of status behind him. Just clean linen and sandals left at the dock, and that same calm in his eyes. Across the room, Lyra Morel stood beside the host's podium, half watching him from a distance. She whispered to her assistant, a young man in a white dinner jacket, who let him back in. "He never really left," the assistant murmured. "He waited quietly by the service path. I think one of the chefs told him he could sit." Lyra clicked her tongue. "Move him. He's in the camera zone." She turned to the AV technician stationed near the glass dome. "Shift the angles. I don't want the back corner showing up in any of the highlight reels." Moments later, a server approached Keanu and said with trained courtesy, "Sir, may I ask you to relocate slightly just here?" He gestured to a low bench even further in the shadow, near the emergency exit. "It's just for visibility purposes." Keanu didn't argue. He never did. He simply stood and moved. From his new seat, he could still see the reef, just barely. It shimmered blue and eternal behind the din of conversation and forks against porcelain. He exhaled long and slow, silence again. A woman across the room raised her phone to snap a panoramic shot of the party. Her screen caught Keanu's form in the corner. She frowned. "Who's that guy?" Lara glanced over, then waved her hand with a tight smile. "No one important, probably staff." And just like that, the fray moved on, but the ocean didn't. It stayed right there watching. The mood had shifted. As the reef darkened with a falling sun, the party's glow grew warmer, louder, more liquid. Guests leaned in closer now, speaking over the music and the hum of wealth. A waiter balanced a tray of beluga caviar, weaving between tables where laughter spilled like wine. Influencers posed against the glowing aquarium backdrop, timing their flashes with a flick of a tail. Keanu sat still where they'd left him, behind the fire extinguisher box, pressed against the glass. No drink, no napkin, no eye contact. He watched a stingray sweep past overhead. Graceful, effortless, a creature born into silence and dominance. He breathed out slowly, resisting the instinct to leave. Then came Lyra Morel. She moved like a ballet of teeth and pearls, her steps small, silent, and precise. The kind of woman who knew how to erase people with just a smile. She stopped 3 feet from him. "Still here," she said, half smiling. Keanu looked up politely. "I didn't want to disturb." Her laugh was soft, almost kind. "Oh no, sir, that's not what I meant." She scanned his clothes again, still damp at the hems. "But this is an exclusive event. We have donors, diplomats, press." "I'm not here for press," Keanu said quietly. "Yes, I gathered that," she replied, glancing over her shoulder. She gestured subtly, and a nearby waiter approached holding a tray with 2 cocktails. Lyra plucked one, an ocean blue martini topped with foam and sea salt flakes. Then in one fluid motion, she turned and handed the other to Keanu. It was warm, a different glass, no garnish. He accepted it without hesitation. A small group nearby noticed the exchange. One of them, Logan Fairfax, leaned in and smirked. "Who's the ghost?" he whispered to Lyra. She answered without looking. "He's just no one." Then, like she'd rehearsed it, Lyra leaned forward and reached for the cocktail in Keanu's hand. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, her voice dipped in syrup. "That one wasn't for you." Before he could respond, she tipped the glass sideways, the drink spilling down his shirt. Cold, slow, humiliating. Few gasps, a few stifled giggles. Keanu stood still, unmoving, as liquid clung to his chest and dripped onto the tile. His face calm, his eyes distant, as if this weren't the first time someone mistook silence for weakness. Lyra stepped back. "You might want to change." Then she smiled and left him dripping in blue under the lights of the deep. "Are you still here? If you are, comment the number 6 below and let us know." The music swelled, a thrum of artificial waves pulsed through the walls, making the air inside Sub-6 feel alive, like the room itself was breathing. But Keanu Reeves no longer felt it. His shirt clung damp to his chest, marked with faint blue stains from the cocktail. No one offered him a towel. No one asked if he was all right. The guests had turned back to their amuse-bouches and selfies, all too well trained in ignoring discomfort that didn't belong to them. He stood quietly near the outer glass wall, gazing into the sea. Manta rays floated above like ghosts. It was the only part of the room that didn't treat him like a mistake. Then came the shove, subtle at first, a bump of the shoulder from Logan Fairfax, heir to a chain of boutique resorts and wearer of a suit that cost more than most cars. Logan leaned in, not to apologize, but to smile. "Didn't see you there," he said, his voice sticky with amusement. "You really know how to blend into a wall." Keanu didn't answer. Logan stepped closer. "You're standing in the main photo spot, you know," he added. "We're taking the donor group shot here in a minute. Think you could make room?" Keanu nodded once, stepping aside, but not fast enough. Logan shoved again, harder this time. Keanu hit the curved glass. There was a sound. Not a crack, not a shatter, but a pop like a wine cork under pressure. A small hairline fracture bloomed across the lower panel of the viewing wall. Faint but real. Gasps followed. Phones snapped up. A security chime lit red on the wall behind the bar. Lyra Morell was there in seconds. "What happened?" she snapped, eyes darting from Logan to Keanu. Logan, perfectly calm, raised his hands. "He fell against the glass. I asked him to move politely." Lyra turned to Keanu, lips curling. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to step away from the structure for your own safety." Keanu said nothing. "Actually," she added louder, "I think it's best you leave." He turned to go, but Logan's voice came again, loud enough for the room. "Check his ID. For all we know, he wandered in from the maintenance dock." The guests laughed nervously, but they laughed. Two security staff approached. Not violent, but firm, hands on his arms, steering him toward the exit stairwell. Keanu didn't resist, but just before the doors sealed behind him, he turned back. Not to the crowd, not to Logan, not to Lyra, but to the glass. He placed one palm against it, slow, deliberate. On the other side, a sea turtle glided silently past, and it stared back. Then the doors closed, and he was gone. The night had swallowed the dock. Above the surface, the world was quiet. No music, no chatter, no glasses clinking. Only the distant hush of waves and the low rumble of a generator humming beneath the walkway. Keanu Reeves stood alone on the pier, shirt still damp, shoulders relaxed in a way that didn't match the humiliation he'd just endured. His sandals waited on the edge, untouched. No one rushed to return them. Behind him, Sub-6 glowed like an alien jewel beneath the sea. From the water's surface, it looked almost sacred, a place only the elite could descend into. But Keanu had seen it from the inside, and he knew the difference between beauty and cruelty dressed in the same light. A staff boat approached slowly, its motor barely audible. "Sir," the boatman said cautiously, "I was asked to return you to the main island." Keanu nodded once and stepped aboard. The boat rocked slightly under his weight. Salt spray kissed his face as the driver turned the wheel. Neither spoke. Halfway across the lagoon, Keanu turned to look back. The reef shimmered under the moonlight. Beneath it, he knew the walls of Sub-6 was still pulsing with laughter, light, and the illusion of exclusivity. And deep in its heart, a tiny crack had started in the acrylic glass. He didn't smile, not yet. Inside Sub-6, the party had resumed at full volume. The guests were unaware or uninterested in the fact that a man had just been removed like an inconvenience. Lyra Morell stood at the center of it all, effortlessly hosting. Hands folded in front of her as if she ruled the ocean herself. Logan Fairfax was louder now, emboldened. He ordered another round of wine, clapped someone too hard on the back, bragged about handling the situation before security could. No one corrected him. No one asked who the man was. He was no one. Just a ripple in the current, a shadow too quiet to matter. Back at the main island, Keanu stepped off the boat, but instead of heading for the guest villas or the beachfront lounge, he turned toward a private path, one carved into the cliffside, hidden behind palm trees and lava rock. At the end of the trail stood a sleek, low-profile structure. No lights, no welcome sign, just a small brass plaque near the doorframe that read, "Private Operations, by appointment only." Keanu pressed his palm to the scanner. The door slid open with a whisper. Inside, everything was silent until a voice greeted him. "Mr. Reeves, the regional director, is ready for your briefing." He stepped through. The ocean hadn't forgotten him. It had simply been waiting for the right moment. The room was cold, not in temperature, but in design. Polished stone, glass walls facing the sea, and silence as heavy as the water pressing against the reef outside. Keanu Reeves stood in the center, his posture relaxed, his expression unreadable. Across from him, the regional director of the resort chain, A man named Mr. Halverson adjusted his cufflinks with trembling fingers. He was older, meticulous, the kind of executive who never sweated. Tonight he was sweating. "We had no idea you arrived early," Halverson said, voice low. "You weren't scheduled until tomorrow morning." "I changed plans," Keanu replied simply. "I wanted to see how they treat people when no one's watching." A beat of silence passed. The implication hung in the air like a submerged weight. "I assume," Halverson said cautiously, "you encountered resistance." Keanu looked at him, not accusing, not even angry, just disappointed. "They didn't see me," he said. "They saw something less." Halverson winced. "Lyra Morel is efficient but image-focused. She's never been briefed on your role. That's on me." "No," Keanu said quietly. "That's on her." Halverson said nothing. On the desk between them lay a binder embossed with a Sub-6 insignia, stamped with a seal from the Global Oceanic Preservation Alliance. Keanu opened it. Inside were memos, photos, guest conduct violations, confidential staff reports, everything. "This restaurant is funded in part by the foundation I co-chair," he said. "That gala tonight, it was sponsored under our environmental grant program." Halverson nodded. "Yes, of course they were made aware. It's in the brief. They knew the funding." Keanu interrupted. "Not the face." He closed the binder. "I've spent years keeping that face out of headlines, out of charity photo ops, because the ocean doesn't care who you are, only what you do." Halverson swallowed. "I'd like to return tomorrow," Keanu said, "but this time I'll need the full board present. Legal, ethics, environmental compliance." "Understood," Halverson said quickly. "And Lyra." Keanu considered it. "No disciplinary action, not yet. Let's give her one more night to show us who she really is." Back underwater, the party carried on, but subtle changes began to ripple. The head of security received a message. "Stand by for executive arrival." The kitchen received an order for a single guest setup with reef-facing seating. The DJ's playlist was quietly replaced with an older, more ambient track list, one curated by the Foundation itself, and in the control room of Sub-6, the feed that once avoided showing the dark corners of the lounge was now reframed. A spotlight had been redirected, not toward the rich, but toward the quiet place someone had once called no one. The elevator hissed open. No footsteps, no music, just silence, followed by the slow, steady tread of leather soles on polished stone. Keanu Reeves entered Sub-6 the same way he had left it. Calm, unsmiling, invisible. But everything had changed. The lights were softer now. The aquarium dome had been dimmed slightly, casting the room in deeper blues. Conversations faltered. Forks paused midair. Something about the atmosphere had shifted, like the tide pulling back before a wave. Keanu didn't walk to the bar. He didn't head toward the back. He walked to the center, the exact spot where Logan Fairfax had shoved him into the glass. No one stopped him. Behind him, a second elevator opened. This time, it was Mr. Halverson, the regional director, flanked by two members of the resort's corporate board. Their presence was impossible to ignore, especially with the Foundation crest pinned to their lapels. Lyra Morel froze mid-sentence. Her voice caught as she turned. Logan noticed too. "Wait, who are these guys?" Then he saw Keanu. For a second, the world didn't compute. The man in front of them, now wearing a tailored black suit. His hair combed back, his presence unmistakable, looked familiar, but not tonight. Not from the bar, from everywhere else. And yet no one had recognized him when it mattered. Lyra's eyes widened. She took one step forward. I didn't know." Keanu raised his hand. "No apologies," he said, "just the truth." He turned slightly toward the guests, not with anger, but something colder, clarity. "This place claims to protect the ocean, but it's become a mirror reflecting only what people want to see." He glanced at the glass dome. "They wanted elegance. You gave them exclusion." A few guests lowered their eyes. Others fidgeted. Logan tried to chuckle. Come on, this is all a misunderstanding. Mr. Halverson, said Logan Fairfax. As of this moment, your family's contract with the Foundation is under review. Sub 6 will be closed for private audit, effective immediately. Lyra's face went pale. Keanu didn't look at either of them. He simply walked to the table by the reef. The one he had never been offered. This time it had been prepared just for him. He sat, and for the first time all night, the sea was silent. The table was small, just one setting, no centerpiece, no garnish. Only a single glass of water, still untouched, catching the dim glow of the reef beyond. Keanu sat alone. The room behind him remained frozen. No music now, no cameras. Just people still dressed in polished designer fabrics, watching the man they'd once laughed at as if they were seeing him.